statistician, happiness expert, TED Talk speaker, founder of Friday Pulse, which has helped over 1,000 teams improve happiness at work. Nic Marks, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Really nice to be here, Mark.
Yeah, Nic, an honor, because I love what you're doing with happiness. It's something that we don't talk enough about. And I'd love to ask you, why happiness? It's not very measurable. It's a difficult thing to measure. What makes people happy? How do we make them more happy? So what got you into happiness in the first place?
Well, in some ways, it's a long story, but really it's about the fact that I'm interested in improving people's lives, and I'm a statistician. So if we're going to try and create a metric which actually summarizes how people's lives are going, then happiness, or sometimes called well-being, is the right sort of measure to do that. And you can create measures of it.
Well, when I think typically of happiness being here in the United States, it typically revolves around status or money. What importance do these things have on our overall happiness, or do they actually detract from our overall happiness?
So they're probably less significant than people think. But that's not to ignore the fact that if you are poor, you don't have much money, then definitely you're less happy. But once you get beyond a certain point, it's not the biggest influence. Much more important are your relationships that you have, whether you feel you have a sort of sense of purpose and meaning in life. Those are much more important things than actually money and status.
Yeah, so this reminds me of a very, I guess, common concept, which is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Where at the bottom end, it's, food, water, etc., your basic needs, and then it's shelter. And as we move up the chain, do you feel like that's really the key to happiness, is figuring out where you are on that ladder of needs? Do you think that's something to look at?
Well, I think that needs is not a bad way to think about it, but and Maslow was in a way roughly right. Even he took down the hierarchy part of his theory as he got older, because in a sense, it's not necessarily steps. We can do them in different orders. So the only one that there's absolute hierarchical to is obviously physical needs. That if we haven't got enough calories in a day, or so we're starving, or we haven't got water, and that's a real problem. But people can also die, or from a lack of love, from a lack of affection. People can, if they feel their lives are meaningless, certainly don't thrive. So they're all important, but I wouldn't put them in a hierarchy. Yeah.
Okay. I like that answer a lot, because Maslow's theory has been along for a very long time, and I'm always interested to hear more ideas on that. So I want to talk a little bit more about the measurability of happiness, because again, to me, when I think of measurability, how much money do I have in a bank? How many subscribers do I have? How many downloads do I get? Right? How many clicks am I getting onto my website or to my lead funnel? Very, very measurable. And for business owners, we love that stuff. We love the measurability. So how can I even start about looking into my own happiness? How can I actually measure my own happiness? Because I think that I'm happy. I think a lot of people would say that they're happy, but maybe they're not necessarily happy.
I think that there can be more stable forms of happiness and more unstable forms of happiness. So, if your happiness is very dependent on what others think of you, it's all fine while everyone loves you. But when they don't, that becomes very depleting. Whereas if it's much more about an inner confidence, it's easier to hold on to. But when we come to measurement, I chunk it up by bits of time. So ask you, how happy are you this week regularly? And then you get it starts to respect the fact that our happiness ebbs and flows. You can say that our mood changes 5 times in a morning. It changes, 20 times in a week, but basically we have good weeks or we have bad weeks. We have good days or we have bad days. And a happy life is where you've got many more good weeks than bad weeks. And, sometimes it's even longer time frame, like we have a bad year or two, perhaps if we go through a divorce, or we go through, we lose someone close to us, we have a really down time, but we slowly recover. And so there's all these sort of different wavelengths of happiness. But when I measure it, I chunk it into discrete time periods. And then you form a sort of metric that can go up and down. And then you can take averages to say how they are overall. That's the way I do it with work particularly.
Very interesting. And you actually have developed this personal happiness check, which is completely free at friday1.com. I'm just wondering, if I was to start and check that out, is that something I want to be monitoring on a daily basis? Because like you said, your mood can change 5 times in a morning. Or is that something I can go one and done to get an overall view? Tell me a little bit about this happiness checklist, because it's interesting to me.
Yeah, so Friday one is designed to be as it's. I mean, the one in it is it's a one-off. We're not trying to create a tool that people have to subscribe to with that. It's a free. It's a sort of. I don't know if you've ever done one of those sort of 16 personalities tests, that you do for Myers-Briggs or things like that. It's a similar structure to that. You answer actually just 15 questions really, and it gives you a feedback on your happiness at work. It's specifically about at work actually,
Okay.
the Test Friday one, and it helps you reflect on your work, what you could do to be better about it. And so it's a reflection tool really, but it starts with it. We benchmark you against people like you. We give you tips about how you could be happier at work in that way. So it's just fun and free to use as a sort of reflection tool.
Very interesting. And I think that having awareness of our own happiness is important. And frankly, it barely gets talked about at all, which is one of the reasons I want to bring you on the show here. Love the TED Talk, by the way. Thank you so much for watching. I'm glad you enjoyed this episode. I've got several other episodes right here for you. Smash one of these videos to make sure that you don't miss out on the tips, tools, and tactics of industry experts. Let's take that side hustle full time. Smash one of these links.